So today we're talking about maintaining free will and letting your animals have a personality. And we're also talking about don't be a weirdo with your birds. This might become a bit of a rant, just because I didn't super well script this video, but bear with me because I think this is important information for anyone with any animal or kid. So, what do I mean by free will? Now, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but I don't want my animals to hang out with me because they have to. I don't want my animals to do what they're doing because they have to. And this video was inspired by a coworker of mine who was telling me about his bird that he used to have. It was a green-cheeked conure like Bean Dip here. And this bird used to go like everywhere with him and would hang out with him, but it had its wings clipped, which is important because that means that the bird couldn't move around the house quite as freely as if it hadn't had its wings clipped. And this coworker also liked to have his bird outside, so he felt like he needed to have the wings clipped in order to bring them outside without them flying away. As you know, Bean Dip's outside all the time, and she is fully flighted. But that took a lot of training. So this isn't really about the wing clipping, it's about the free will surrounding wing clipping and surrounding a lot of how I see people treat their pets. Now we're gonna get over the weirdest hump real quick before we get into anything else, okay? Come on. Come on. The weirdness I'm talking about is that this coworker also told me that he used to flip his birds on their back and rub their tummies. Don't do that. Don't pet your bird anywhere that's not their head. And the reason is because birds wouldn't naturally be touched there. That's like mating behavior for them. Are you your bird's mate? No. Don't be a weirdo. Birds are already freaky enough for the both of you. Come here. Oh, she's on top of the camera. And like, I may have talked about this before, but I kind of thought it was common knowledge that you shouldn't, not for everybody, but for people who have birds, I thought it was common knowledge that you shouldn't touch your birds anywhere but their head. And so now you know, if you, it increases hormonal behavior, it makes them think you're their mate, and it's just a weird thing to do, especially once you know this. They're not a dog, they're not a cat, and I would have hoped that before you got them, you researched them enough to know not to pet them anywhere but their head. But if you didn't, now you know, don't do that. And the only reason that's in this video is because this video was inspired by that conversation with that one coworker. And Bean Dip didn't like him because the first thing he did was try to touch her everywhere. And Bean Dip is usually very friendly with new people, but she got on his finger and the first thing he did was try to pet her all the way down her back. He didn't even try to build any rapport with her before he did that. He just went in. And that's where we get into the free will part. So the guy I had this conversation with claims that he used to have 14 birds, including Indian ringnecks, which are another kind of small parrot, green-cheeked conures. I think he had some of the bigger ones, but I don't know. Anyways, so he should have known birds, right? In my experience, birds like to be their own destiny makers, right? Bean Dip's in a tree right now, being her own destiny maker. Will you come down here? You're freaking me out. More so than dogs and cats, just because birds are still considered wild animals. They are not, like, they can be tame. Bean Dip is very tame, but they have not been bred in captivity long enough to be considered domestic. So for that reason, they are especially into being their own boss, and you need to convince them that everything they do is kind of their own idea. So I was really surprised when this coworker of mine just reached out and went to pet my bird all the way down her back, which we already talked about the weirdness of that. But weirdness aside, he went to pet her all the way down her back without building any rapport with her, even though he has had birds before. And it made me realize that a lot of people don't see animals as having any agency of their own, especially when it comes to human interaction. Another example of this, and possibly a more jarring one, is that I used to volunteer at a bird rescue. And at that bird rescue, a couple things would happen. One of them was that the person in charge would clip the bird's wings, which to me was wild because they are birds. You don't have to train them to be outside with you, but they are birds who were kind of built to fly. So it's weird that you would get a pet that flies and not let them fly. But the other thing is that these birds were expected to step up or get grabbed, sometimes toweled, which is where you throw a towel over the bird to keep them from biting you, and to keep them restrained. This is usually used in things like nail clipping. Should not be used to force a bird to interact with you. So anyway, she would towel these birds or full on grab them. I saw her grab a green cheek conure once, and it made me decide I was never going to leave my bird alone with her, even though she did bird sitting. Because kind of to this woman and to a lot of people, and I'm sorry, a lot of people who clip their birds' wings, the animals are there for their enjoyment. And there is an element of that, right? Like, we do keep our animals, our dogs, our cats, our birds, our fish, as pets. They are there for our enjoyment. But I think that this idea that they should always interact with us when we're asking, whether or not they feel like it, kind of takes away an important point, which is that the animals are their own being, right? And part of the fun is having a real animal, not a robot or a stuffed animal. Part of the fun of that is building a rapport with them and building that relationship up to a point where they are interested in interacting with you. Obviously, Bean Dip is currently really interested in the treats. Sometimes that's how we motivate some interactions, right? But if we need to get a bird out of their cage, if we need to pick up an animal for some reason, let's try to figure out how to make them want to engage with that activity. So for Bean Dip specifically, I might offer her a treat to step up if she doesn't step up anyway. Bean Dip is actually very good at just wanting to interact. So a lot of the times you can do it without treats. Now you'll see that we have a lot of treats in these videos, and that has a lot to do with trying to keep her in frame. When I walk her and I'm not videoing, there's not nearly as many treats because she doesn't have to be on my shoulder. And she sticks around just fine in those circumstances. But when I want her to be in a specific place, I'm gonna motivate that with some treats. Just like if I was going to get a bird out of its cage and that bird didn't want to come to me, I might motivate that with treats. I might motivate that by every time I get the bird out of the cage, I let them wander around, I let them fly, I let them find stuff. interact with, you know, their friends. If we know that the birds are social with other birds that that like them, then I might let them interact with them. I might kind of make some kind of game for the animal when they come out so that there's a reason to come out. And that reason doesn't have to be because I said so, because they are not here just for me. And like I said, that's part of the fun of not having a stuffed animal or a robot, is that you have to build this kind of relationship with your animals. You have to build a rapport. That could also look like just spending time around them, just spending a lot of time around your birds to the point where they're really used to you. They like to hang out on your shoulder. Now, this is something we kind of naturally do with animals like dogs. I have definitely met people who will walk up to a dog and just pet it and expect that that's fine. That dog doesn't know you. What if somebody walked up, what if a bear, what if a really nice bear walked up to you and was just like, you know what? You're cute. I'm gonna touch you. Well, freaky, right? You might let it. You might have your fawn response and let that bear just pet you, but it'd be kind of freaky, even if they weren't seeming to hurt you. And I see a lot of people act like this with dogs, and that one coworker with birds. But with our own personal pets, with our own personal dogs, I do see most people build rapport. And this is in things like daily walks, in things like letting the dog sleep in their bed. I'm not advocating for that or against it. I'm just saying some people do it. It's in games like fetch. It's in communication building through training. People do tend to build rapport with their dogs. People do not tend to build rapport with their hamsters. I have seen many people reach in and grab a hamster. I am not a hamster expert. I'm not really a bird expert either, but I've done a lot more research on birds. So I don't know how you might build rapport with a hamster, but I'm guessing you could offer them some treats, offer them some motivation to come step up to you, interact with them at the times that they would naturally be awake. All of these things that would make the animal more comfortable with you and not just satisfy your need to touch an animal. Oh, bean dip. That was not what we call a nice kiss. So let's take a moment to go back and talk about that woman who ran the bird rescue. Her method for making the birds interact with her, for building rapport, which is not what she was doing, but she might tell you that that's what she was doing, is actually a method known, especially in the horse world, this is where I got this word from, known as flooding. Now, flooding takes advantage of the fawn response. You know, fight, flight, or fawn. A fawn response is, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. I'm doing what you're telling me to do. I'm doing what I think you want. And flooding is, it can look like different things, but it often looks like forced interaction with an animal that isn't interested in interacting with you until the animal gives up and stops fighting. So that might be grabbing a bird. We're not going to actually do it because I don't grab bean dip, usually. It looks like maybe toweling a bird. It looks like throwing a saddle on a horse and letting them buck and kick until they're exhausted. Flooding is not training. It's not letting the bird know, or the horse or the animal know, that what you're doing is going to be okay. It's not, oh, okay, this is fine and that's why I'm calming down. It's exhaustion. It's another method. It's a fawning method to try to get the thing that's happening to stop. And this is traumatic for the animal. And I think it's really important that some well-meaning people who think they're being really good owners do this with they're birds with, I've kind of seen it with dogs. Dogs have been domesticated for long enough that they're pretty nice. But where they just hug them and hold them, and then the animal calms down and they go, see, they decided it's okay with me. Well, no. They tried a new method. They tried to fight. They couldn't flee because you wouldn't let them. So now they're trying to fawn. And that's why it's really important to me to actually build rapport with your animals. Now, I don't know what the long-term effects of training an animal through flooding would be. But I imagine that that animal is going to be less inclined to meet new people, less comfortable in new situations, less comfortable with you. And your relationship is never going to be nearly as strong as if you try to invite the animal and show them the reasons that they should want to interact with you instead of forcing them. Just a side note, even after you have had an animal for a long time, an animal who has been flooded or who is used to flooding as the method of getting them to calm down is an animal that knows you don't listen to them, which means they're going to go straight from their warning signs of I don't like this, like puffing up their feathers and, you know, kind of hissing at you or walking away, straight from that to aggression, straight to biting. And that's because a flooded animal doesn't expect you to listen to any of their earlier warning signs, and they might skip them. So this rant about that one conversation I had with that one coworker has now probably gone on longer than the conversation about the coworker. But I hope you learned some things. I hope you either feel good about your pet parenting or are switching directions, or maybe understanding how your animal feels a little better. And I would like to leave you on this note. Sometimes they don't want to interact. Sometimes they want to do what they want to do. And when that's safe, just let them. Let your animals choose to interact with you when they want to. Don't forget to follow me on Patreon. It's only $2 a month. Super worth it. Also, I am still collecting videos of your pets doing tricks. Any trick, any pet, just send me a video via my Instagram at bananas_in_bean dip. That's the only way I've been able to figure it out. And I will react to your videos of your pets doing tricks and try to guess how you trained it. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Have a cookie for dinner if you want. I had ice cream last night. It was from Dairy Queen and it was the best. All right, bye-bye.